Well, hello, everybody. Diane Covington here. I wanted to share something with you that had a huge impact on me. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was talking about what motivates people to just get up in the morning and do their thing. And it specifically was talking about entrepreneurs, not Mary Kay, just entrepreneurs in general. And one of the people on there was saying to this talk show person, "Well, I'm motivated. I've got bills to pay, single parent, blah, blah, blah." And they said, "Yeah, but what about days that you don't really want to work?" And they go, "Well, ideally, I do want to work." And they kind of skated around. And he says, "Do you understand that money is not a motivator?" And she says, "Oh, it is for me. I have bills to pay." And he says, "Yeah, but when you're having a bad day or stuff hits the fan or whatever, sometimes you're just not going to get it done." So they kept referring to different psychological links. And so it made me think of a class that I took way back in the day by National Sales Director Stacy James called Five Basic Needs. Now, this has nothing to do with Maslow's hierarchy because I actually did my master's degree on that. This has to do with five basic needs. It's kind of like the way God wired you. So I'm going to give you just an overview. And what I want to first of all tell you that every person has all five needs. So when you're listening to them, don't think, "Well, that one's me." And then a minute later, "No, maybe that one's me." So I'm going to tell you, you're going to have a little bit of all five of these in you. Okay. They can also change over time, change, especially if you have a major life change, a marriage, a divorce, a birth of a child, job change, health change. But the goal is when I'm done is for you to identify your number one need, which relates to what motivates you, what drives you, what gives you that just get up and get it done kind of thing. Don't assume you know what another person's number one need is. Have them tell you what their need is. And that's especially important if you're a colleague with somebody or coaching somebody, or you've got someone on your team or an offspring director, whatever. Also, sometimes we live in a less than powerful life because we're trapped in a role that doesn't meet our number one need. You can get locked into something that's not really your thing. Like you could get caught up in a competition when that's not necessarily your drive, but maybe there's a big contest that's driving you, if that makes sense. So let me get this cup of tea out of here so I don't spill it. Tend to keep spilling things in my office. Um, so are you living in your number one need? And this isn't personality. So you can cross reference this with like love languages and the DISC and all that. But I want you just maybe get a piece of paper, jot down a couple key points and see which one do you think might be yours. And so what I'm going to tell you why this is really helpful is once you figure out what your basic need is, and then you take your goal for the new Mary Kay year and you can figure out, well, if it's freedom and choice or power and achievement or love and connection, whatever it is, you can figure out how can I use what drives me to get further in my goal. And it really does help. And you'll see that at the end. I'll put a little bow on the end. All right, so these are not in any particular order. I'm just going to throw these five out to you. So five basic needs. Number one is power and achievement. This is the need to conquer. It's typically someone who's very ambitious. Achievement is a very high calling. That's like they're very, very energized by the win. All right, they're highly competitive spirit. Often athletes, people who like to compete in sports. If you they say, "Oh, I grew up and I played sports my whole life," they may end up being power and achievement. They are highly competitive, but not always in competition with others, but sometimes they're competitive in just the need to excel. Okay. Strive to be the best. They can be number one, um, or it can be the best of yourself, what you want to, what you want it to be. Does that make sense? So they love to break records because of the win factor. They're like, "I broke a record," even if it's their own record, they still love to break a record. They love the spotlight. They love appreciation, admiration, and respect. They love the spotlight. They value relationships that challenge them. So if, let's just say you take a consultant, if her director does not challenge her the way, she may choose to not pursue Mary Kay anymore. Or if her family doesn't, like her husband or her significant other, her kids or whatever, if they don't provide her that same type of win, then she may just not be as engaged, if that makes sense. They're not weighed down by incidentals. Okay. They also will take the lead without thinking. So just you can think about yourself. Is that you? They can become rigid in their leadership or their expectation of others. Okay. Um, they don't usually like messy emotions or complicated situations. Just sharing that. And then last but not least, they can find herself disconnecting and detaching too easy. Sometimes people in this kind of a category are the people who don't like school projects that are a group because they're like, well, I'm going to pull the weight for the whole team because I want to get an A. So she tells the whole group, don't anybody do anything. I'll just do the whole presentation. That's a person who's totally driven by the need to conquer power and achievement. So that's the first one. Second one, and again, these are not in any order, it's called love and connecting. These are people who love and belonging is really important, the need to influence. These people are empowered by the influence of affecting another person's heart or actions. This drives a lot of directors. Actually, I know directors in every one of these categories. They have a dedicated interest in how others think, respond, and operate. So they're definitely feedback from a consultant or feedback from a colleague is really important to them. They desire to be immersed in the middle of great, heartfelt communication. So if you are somebody who tends to give one word answers, yes, no, I'll be there, whatever. If the person who's coaching you or the person that you're working with is a love and connecting, love and belonging personality, they're going to want to draw more out of you, if that makes sense. These people are typically physically affectionate. They easily demonstrate love. They require physical touch and comfort others with physical connection. So they're the ones who would come up and give you a hug. Or if you're having a tough day, say, you look like you need a hug. Those kind of people. They value relationships that stimulate their head, their heart, and their soul. So this isn't just a surface kind of a hug kind of thing. Um, Progress is made through elevating others' belief and understanding. They make friends easily. It almost reminds me of an I personality. It makes friends easily. They're energized by the ability to influence, and they are energized by making a difference. I'm just curious. You guys feel free to type in the chat if you think any of these describe you. All right. So that's the second one. And again, you are a little bit of all of these, but you will have one. So if you write down which one you think you are, and then it's like, well, there's two, but one will always be a little higher than the other one. All right. Third one is called freedom and choice. This is the need for freedom. All right, this is empowered by an open agenda. These people thrive by that. They do not respond favorably to rigid rules or strict conformity. This honestly is a lot of people who want to be an entrepreneur. As soon as the boss at a job says, well, your job is a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, lunch is at 12, they're like, wait, what? I have to be here every day, 8 to 5, and I have to take lunch at noon? They're like, yeah, that doesn't work for me. So they have an innate desire to create their own way, easily strays from the planned venue. So they want to come up with their own, and I love this because they're creative. They're get it done kind. They love to soar in a positive direction. Desire to control her decisions, her direction, and her schedule. Again, they do well in a corporate environment as long as the corporate environment is like get the job done and just do your job. How you get it done is totally up to you. That would be something where the person of freedom and choice or the need for freedom would thrive. Um, they value mature relationships that don't require constant attention. So if her leadership is too regulated or taught in an absolute manner, she'll become highly frustrated. So if you have a scheduled coaching call with somebody and every time they call, you tend to ask the same series of questions after 2 or 3 scheduled coaching calls, they're probably not going to schedule anymore. Okay. They love to express themselves through their own creative design, whatever that looks like. Okay. All right. The next one is safety and security. So these are the people who have a strong need for stability. Now, remember, you probably have a little bit of all of these. They are empowered by a stable environment. It's not innately impulsive. They need to think things through. So if her leader is really spontaneous or not planned out, she becomes anxious. So if they're like, oh, we're going to go to seminar, we're just going to wing it. Well, what do I pack? Oh, I don't know, pack whatever. Well, what's the agenda? Like, are meals covered or what are we going to do? Well, I don't know. Just throw some stuff in a suitcase. Somebody who's safety and security, that's going to like, they're like, no, where's the agenda? What do I need? They value trust and continuity, excuse me, in relationships. They feel most confident and comfortable when there is a known plan. Now, this could be a plan that they put together, but it is a known plan. They're motivated, excuse me, by the ability to control and create their own future. Again, very strong entrepreneurs are safety and security, which is interesting because if you talk to somebody, and I just had this conversation with a very close friend the other day, she is total safety and so and security, and so that's one of my highest as well. She goes, Diane, I don't know how you can be self-employed and not be stressed out. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, aren't you worried about, you know, this happening or that happening? I said, you're sitting here, you spent 10 minutes telling me about your fear after this merger of being laid off. I said, who's going to lay me off? Me? I could lay me off today and hire me back tomorrow morning. Like, to me, I have all the control in the world because I have the ability to make my own schedule and make as much money as I want based on how many appointments I want to hold. So I feel most confident. A lot of people in this category feel most confident and comfortable when there's a known plan, favored by the ability to control and create their own future. They feel better saving money than spending it. So if that's you, that might be another little thing. They also seek peace. And I think that's where that harmony comes in with saving money versus spending it. These people are energized by a savings account. They can be too cautious. They have to think through invitations or decisions with the need to feel comfortable about the rollout. So in other words, like, well, if I say yes to that and that commits me to that event, then what am I going to be missing over here? And is that more valuable than what I'm missing? So they weigh all the pros and cons when they make those decisions. Decisions are also affected by physical safety. They're not usually spontaneous. So a lot of that doesn't apply to me. But when I was young, my parents went through kind of an ugly divorce. And so my mom was kind of left high and dry financially. And I learned my takeaway from that was never become 100% dependent on a man. That's just the tape that I was given as a child, as a young adult. And I always knew that I could take care of myself. I'm smart. I've got two working hands, and they say the best hands are the ones on the ends of your elbows. I knew that I could outwork anybody at any job. So I never worried about that. But to me, safety and security is a big thing. Okay, now the last one is interesting because I actually have a colleague that is 100% this one. I don't think she's any of the other ones, and that's uncommon, but it's called fun and pleasure. So this is the need for adventure. They are empowered by a party. And I don't mean like necessarily a Mary Kay party. I mean any party, right? They are motivated by the ability to have fun, conversation, and laughter. They do not respond favorably to serious, dull, or boardroom conversations. They are drawn to music, motivated deeply by music. They are inspired by the opportunity to experience the uncommon, new venues, new adventures, all of that. They love vacation for the experience, not necessarily the rest. They don't want to rest. They want an experience. They're willing to work in order to have fun options. So if her leader is too demanding of her time, she's going to feel resentful. So just think about that for just a second. So comments such as, you have to be at all the special events or you're not a good team player. They might go, well, I don't want to be at all the special events. That's too big of a commitment for me. Whatever. Okay. These people, fun and pleasure, they're energized by laughter. It has either got to be fun or she's going to make it fun. Is not motivated by workshops or long training sessions unless they're entertaining. Schedules several vacations, puts a lot of it into her schedule that is not interpreted as necessary or even considered goofing off for somebody who's a need and conquer person. So just to recap, we've got power and achievement. This person loves a challenge, loves to break records. They want to do the most and be the best. Okay. Second one is love and belonging. They love people. They are others focused. They'll do for others what they won't even do for themselves. They're rescuers. They kind of want to save the world. They need to learn to let go and become great at it. Third one, freedom and choice. They love independence. They hate to be micromanaged. They want to create their own path. They're good listeners. They can figure out their own way. They will take and recreate. They start off well, but they can get off in the wrong direction. So the freedom and choice people, sometimes a mentoring situation is really good. Fourth, safety and security. For this person, everything has to have a process. They will typically not quantum leap. They take it one step at a time, never missing a step. They're slow to change, but they can move fast as long as a process doesn't change. If the process changes, it messes them up. Okay. They are consistent and will follow a proven path. Um, Fun and pleasure. This person's the life of the party. They are people magnets. They forget that they're running a business, so the results or the purpose can be missed. So again, you have all five needs, whether you want to admit it or not. Obviously, some are much higher than others. Your goal is to identify what your number one need is, and you can get locked into a need that maybe really isn't your number one, but you're working in that mindset. The better you know people, the more power you have to help them reach their potential. And your level of confidence will absolutely affect your number one lead. So, whatever your number one need is. So, I'm just curious. So, like when I go through these, please type in the chat what you think yours is power and achievement. And you have a lot of them, but who would say what their number one, like their top two? Feel free to type it in the chat. It's either power and achievement, love and belonging. Like Gloria Mayfield Banks is obviously power and achievement, love and belonging, freedom and choice, that would be Stacey James, because I'm looking at the notes in here. Safety and security, that would be Elisa Madsen. And you know who else did was safety and security was Daisha We got. And then fun and pleasure is Jan Thetford. So some of you are putting down love and connection, freedom and choice, freedom and choice. You know what's really interesting is because I've been with the company quite a while, I would say probably, like to me, these are all important. And it's interesting. So one person is saying their husband is safety and security, so I don't have to worry about that. And it's interesting because I think if yeah, you just process things different. So for me, I think my number one has got to be freedom and choice because I absolutely love not having a schedule. I know there are days when I probably need to stick to a schedule better than others, but I love literally like I had oral surgery last Friday. Wasn't planned. So on Thursday when I see the dentist, he goes, "Yeah, we're going to take that out tomorrow and you're going to be out the whole day." I'm like, "Wait, what?" And I'm like, "That's not possible. I have appointments." He's like, "Well, cancel them because once you take a whatever they gave me, a Valium, and then they put that IV," he goes, "You aren't going to know anything." I don't remember coming home. I don't remember the ride home. I don't remember leaving in a wheelchair. And I'm like, "Wait, I left in a wheelchair?" And they go, "Yeah, they wheeled you out to the car." I'm like, "Don't remember any of that." So I didn't stress out over it because I thought, okay, so there's nothing I can do about it. I'll just move all those appointments to Monday or Tuesday next week. So I love freedom and choice. Power and achievement is a little bit, but I'm more competitive with myself than I am with anyone else. In fact, I almost never check the scoreboard of what other people are doing, like literally zero. But I'm always looking at what did I do last July? Did I get a gold medal last July? What did I do? What was my best July ever? What's the highest week I've had so far in 2025? Was it over $1,000? Can I beat my best week? So I'm always competing with myself, which I guess is power and achievement. But to me, that brings it's more fun just because I'm competing with myself. So I'd love to know if you guys have any questions on any of those. The better you know people, the more power you have to help them figure out what they are. Here's what's interesting. Freedom and choice people choose your battles because like a weekly accomplishment sheet is not something that they're going to want to do. So it's going to look like, I don't want to do that. That's a lot of figures. But if I say to them, well, by doing that though, it'll free up hours and hours and weekends of time when you get to do your taxes. Because literally, if you just do a weekly accomplishment sheet, the end of the year, you push a button that says reports and you put in total sales. Like you literally push a couple buttons and in 15 minutes, you'll have all the information. If you don't discipline yourself and do it every week, it's going to take you weekends and weekends and weekends to put all that information together. So for me, I'd rather discipline myself for 10 minutes a week to put those weekly accomplishment sheets in there than and then not have to deal with it come tax time. So that's kind of where my freedom and choice overrides my other stuff. Does that make sense? So what's interesting though is that if you can see, you might be, let's say you're a consultant, you're watching this, and your goal is DIQ and directorship. Then my question, if I was your coach, is I would say to you, and I'll just pick a random name. I'll just pick the name Lisa. I'd say, so Lisa, tell me why directorship? Well, it's more money. I said, okay. So then my first thought was, okay, well, if it's about money, it must be safety and security, whatever. I say, why is money important to you? Well, I don't want to have to go back to a full-time job. Okay, so tell me more about that. Well, if I make enough money and marry Kay, then I can work around my kid's schedule, and therefore I won't have to go back to a full-time job. Okay, so are you telling me that there's a set dollar amount that if you make that set dollar amount, you can stay in that unstructured environment of being self-employed, being home with your kids. But as long as you bring home this set dollar amount, you don't have to go back to your corporate job. Correct. Okay, so what are you going to tell me she is? I'm going to say she's probably driven by freedom and choice. Because she's saying, I don't really want to discipline myself, but I will because the alternative is to go back and work for someone else. Okay. She could also have a little bit of power of achievement in there. And so when you're working with people, or maybe just for you guys, here's what I'm going to tell you. If you heard these and you're like, okay, Diane, all three, I have three things. I'm safety and security, freedom and choice, and love and belonging. It's like, okay, so that means the other two are not as high. So you've got three that are high. How do you determine which of those three is your highest? Because it's really important that you know that. So I might ask you some questions like, okay, so safety and security, if I gave you a proven path, but during that path you found a more efficient way to do it, would you go with that or would you stay with the old path? Oh no, I would go with the more efficient way. I'm always up for suggestions. Okay, so then safety security isn't as high as maybe freedom and choices or power and achievement. So I maybe would put that one as third. So then if it's power and achievement and freedom and choice, I'd say, does it matter more if you win and the team wins or if the entire team crosses the finish line, whether they're in first place or second or third? Well, I want the whole team to win. I'm all about all 12 of my team members having a win for July. Okay, well, that's somebody who's absolutely freedom and choice. Does that make sense? And the same thing with love and belonging. Love and belonging is very much a calling for people in Mary Kay because they want to make an impact. Many, many directors have love and belonging because they love people. They're very others focused and they want to help and mentor. And I do too. That's very much one of my high ones. I would say probably freedom and choice and love and belonging are the two. Now, I do want to share with you something really, really quick. I have a colleague. I'm not going to tell you her name. Some of you might know her. She is 99.9% fun and pleasure and 1.1% of mm, maybe power and achievement. Why do I know that? She says, what time does the meeting start on Zoom? I said, it starts at 9. How long does it go till 10? I'm not going to be on Zoom for an hour. When are the announcements? I'll just jump on for that. I'm like, you can't really do that. And they go, well, it's not going to be fun. I don't want to go. And if I say, oh, well, you want to go to do this with me? Is it like, she'll literally say to me, is it going to be fun? I said, well, I don't know. I think fun is a mindset. So yeah, I think it's going to be fun. Yeah, it doesn't sound very fun to me. I'm not going to go. If the event is not fun, she will not attend, even if there is critical information that will impact her paycheck, that would impact her car, that would impact her Mary Kay life. If it isn't fun, I'm not kidding you, she won't attend. And I said, well, what if you miss something important? Oh, I can read the memo later. And I'm just like, wow. So I just want to tell you guys, figure out which one. Now, chances are, like I said, you're a little bit of all of them, but I'm guessing there's one or two that you can already put, like if you drew a line, there's a couple that you'll be able to put below the line, meaning you have a few of those traits, but not as many, right? And then you've got hopefully one or two that are higher. And so work with your coach, work with a mentor, and have them help you figure out what it boils down to is like, let me just take July as an example. It's the new year. I want our unit to break our best July we've ever done, which is to do 22,000. We're a little bit behind on that. And I think, okay, so what is it about breaking that? I think it builds momentum. I want everyone to experience a win. What is that? That is on love and belonging. People's focused. They have a save the world mentality. They need to be a mentor and a survivor. They need to learn to let go and become great at it. All of those things are important to me. So love and belonging. Let me just go back over this super quick. Empowered by the influence of affecting other person's heart and or actions. Dedicated interest in how others think. I want everyone in my unit in July to go, you know what? I started out the year with a win. Maybe they've never had $100 day. Just have one. Maybe they've never had a $500 week. Have one. They've never added a team member. Add one. Just like, because what I will tell you is inactivity breeds fear. And the longer we think, the bigger the boulder gets in front of us. The more we analyze, the more we crunch numbers, the more we focus on how incredibly difficult this could be. It might be booking a party. You will talk yourself into a complete frenzy versus just getting into action. Action doesn't create perfection, but it does create confidence. All right, you guys, I hope you found this helpful. Text me and let me know which one of your 5 basic needs you think you are.